Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Mindset Reset Radio. Today, we have a really amazing guest. Solara Amun Ra is the #1 best-selling author of Spiritual Seductress, the high-powered women's guide to devour the world through spiritual guidance. She's the preeminent spiritual advisor to female visionaries and thought leaders, a master ascension catalyst, and spiritual DNA activator for profound fulfillment and radical 5D bliss living. Holy crap. I feel like we have so much to learn from you today. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Jessica. It's such an honor to be here.
Yeah, I'm really, really excited about this topic because I love getting into the nitty gritty of the things that we often hear in the mindset world, but very rarely really get down on. But before we do that, tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Yes, so I'm an elite spiritual advisor to high-level women entrepreneur that are really wanting to step into what I call your higher purpose iconic work, meaning not just what you're really good at, but finally stepping into what you really came here to do that only you can do the way that you do it. And so there's a lot of clearing and activation that needs to happen for someone to step into that work. And when you do, what you find out is that you start to have more fun than you ever did in your business, make more money than you were doing before, and just feeling a level of fulfillment that I think nothing else can create that in your life.
It sounds incredible.
It's a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. And I'm sure a lot of work too, along
There's
with
all
all of this work.
there's always work involved, but I'm in a phase with my business and the work that I'm doing that it's really about everything that we need to clear up, everything that needs to come up, that we're doing that with a lot more ease and grace, and that we're actually doing it much faster.
Mm.
So that, because I truly believe we're here for a reason, and we're all meant to live a fully abundant and fulfilled life. So we need to get things out of the way. And most of the clients that come to me, they've done a lot of the mindset work and the strategy, and they're looking for, I feel like I'm missing something. What is that? And this is the piece that comes in that can make truly radical transformations in your life.
Absolutely. And I feel like that's the perfect transition into this idea of quantum mindset. And I imagine it's a big part of what you do with your clients and what you've done with yourself. So I want to just start with like breaking down like what does quantum mindset even mean?
Mm. So, most of us are taught, and this is a really important word, we are taught to think with a limited mind,
Mm.
meaning that we operate with man made laws, which is okay, let me look at the outside world and let me look at what other people are doing. And that kind of sets the bar for my goals, the bar for my success, the bar for what I can experience in my life. And so then I imagine all of your listeners, you've worked with a coach already, you're running a business, you set your goals, and you do the work to achieve those goals based on that outer reality that you've, used as a measuring bar. Quantum mindset is completely different because it means that instead of operating by man-made law, which is very limiting actually, you get to tap into the universal mind, which is completely limitless. That's what defines it. It's unbound, unlimited. There are no rules, and you get to discover and get to be you. So, if you're thinking about goal setting, all of a sudden it's a completely different playing field, right? Because you can no longer set a goal based on what you're seeing on the outside, but actually based on intuitive information that you are starting to receive. And that actually there is no one out there that has done this yet, and there's a very specific reason, because only you can do what you do the way that you do it. So you need to tap into this greater, super expansive universal mind that then gives you creative downloads, and it starts to present you with the opportunities and the people that need to come into your life in order to bring this creation out into the world. And so that's why it's quantum versus limited, because the growth happens when you start to tap into that and really trust it, because that is the key piece. Most of us don't believe that we can trust it because it's too much of the unknown and untangible. But once you learn the process and get rid of the blocks that are holding you back from trusting that, then it really is largely exponential in terms of not just what you can create in the world, but everything that you can call in to live truly the fully abundant life that we want to live. I mean, there's a reason why we're entrepreneurs, right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, we would go get a job. And it's so fascinating because I feel like most entrepreneurs, we go down that route and then we actually put ourselves into a box of what we can accomplish, or we look at somebody else's success model and try to follow that success model for what we can accomplish.
Mhm.
And everything that I'm suggesting is that it's actually the other way around. So I'll pause there for a moment because I know that was a lot before we go on.
Yeah, I love it, and I think something you said there at the very end intrigues me, which is that we follow like someone else's success model, and it's kind of interesting because I feel like especially so much in the entrepreneurial world, it's like we're looking for that model. We're looking for someone to tell us how to do it or what to do or how to get that success. And I like this idea that quantum mindset, from what I can tell, says not only is your success limitless, but you already know, like you already have all the access to make that happen. You just have to stop asking for someone to tell you how to do it, and living around their limits.
And it's really interesting that you use the word ask, because that is actually exactly what happens. As entrepreneurs, many times when we're ready to make the next investment or hire the next coach, we're actually looking for somebody to give us permission to step into the next level of success. And that typically looks like, well, let me follow this model to, get to seven figures, or, all those models that are out there. And actually, there is no permission then, and it all comes from within. So a very different, and obviously we all need the mindset work and the strategies. There's, obviously to get to a certain level in your business. I'm not discounting any of that. We all need all of that. And we're talking about the next level here where you're playing with a lot more freedom. Um, and and not only creating your own model of success, but if you are a coach or running any program, that you're actually passing that along also for other people so that nobody has to try to fit into a mold.
Right, exactly. And I imagine, I can imagine listeners right now are saying like, "That sounds great. Sign me up. I want that. How do I do it?" So, I mean, I imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, that that process starts with a lot of letting go of those limitations and those stories and the things that are keeping us in this box that we have been taught to be in. So, can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah. So most listeners are probably familiar with the whole idea of the way the subconscious mind works and limiting beliefs work. And the fact that we're programmed from a very young age, and that creates all of our beliefs,
Yeah.
right? So there is not just a process of really understanding what's going on in your subconscious mind, which you can actually immediately tell if there's anything that you want in your life that you've been wanting, that's on your vision board, that's on your goals, whatever that is, and you don't have it yet, for sure that your subconscious mind is at play keeping you where you're at,
Mm.
right? So you need to do the work of uncovering, well, what is there? What are the programs? It's like a computer program
Mm.
that creates certain limitations. So first is doing that discovery process and letting go of those programs. But there's also another piece which is really important, and it's a lot of unlearning, especially for women.
Mm.
So one of the things I like to talk about, because it was such a discovery for me personally, and then of course I've been teaching it to clients, is that the anatomy of success for women is different,
Hmm.
right? So when you look at men that are very successful, you don't typically hear the stories of the body breakdowns and the sacrifices that they made along the way and the marriages that are not functioning and all those things that happen that you do hear for women. And when I went through my own body breakdown, I thought, so, wait, let me put the foot on the brake here. Something is missing in this picture. And that's when I realized that, yes, even though I had done a lot of this mindset work and the deprogramming and the letting go, that there was still a piece missing. And the piece missing was this unlearning and learning a new way. So the unlearning is that, we've been taught to do things the way men do, which is, let me set a goal and let me put everything into action toward that goal. And I've seen many women and I've had a lot of clients reach a very high level of success. And then also the burnout or something is falling apart, or they feel completely unfulfilled because all of a sudden they're not aligned, right? So the unlearning is, wait, not everything has to follow this straight line. And it's not just about setting goals, it's about who I am being
Right.
and then taking action toward those goals, right? And in the being, you start to discover that the anatomy of success for women involves a lot of connection with your intuition. If you are, I use the word higher self a lot because I'm very much in the spiritual space. So connecting with your higher self, universe, God, when whatever word works for you, to see where you're truly being guided and when you need to pause and then when you need to go again. Because women, just by our physical nature, we do not operate like men. We have cycles that our body goes through, just like the cycles in nature. And it's very important to be operating with our very own cycles of when we're supposed to be out there and putting out a lot of energy and putting creativity, and when we're supposed to be going more inwardly and getting the downloads and getting the intuitions to then put into place. It's those seeds so that then we can plant those seeds for the flower to grow, right? And so this is a piece of unlearning and a new learning that really is about how women operate. And the true essence where we operate is flow.
Hmm.
That is our essence. So if we are not in flow, it's because we're actually trying to fit into a mold or not operating according to our own internal cycles or not listening to intuition. And there's absolutely no way you can ever tap into quantum mindset if you're not doing that, because you will find limitations along the way.
Right. And I think one of the biggest things that I see in my communities and just hearing people talk about this work is, okay, maybe I've done the work and I'm starting to tap into my intuition. But not only am I not listening to it because maybe I don't trust myself or it's going against like what I've learned, thus the unlearning. Um, or that we don't want to flow the cycles, that we're so afraid to not be go go go, to not be pushing.
We're very afraid of that because we
Right.
feel like the moment we take the foot off the gas pedal, we feel like everything is going to fall through the cracks.
Mhm.
And this is our need to control everything. And the
Right.
truth is, we don't have any control at all.
Yeah.
At all. And so it's really fascinating, because my background is I used to be an architect. So I was actually trained to, you know, all the details, control all the details. Everything has to be tightly controlled, right? To make sure that the building stands and that there's no water coming through and all those pieces. And it was so fascinating for me when I went through my own spiritual awakening of learning this process of surrendering and really trusting this higher mind that is giving us nudges all the time. And again, we've been taught and programmed to not listen to that. But everyone that's listening can recall a time in their life when they got an intuitive hit and they rolled with it because all the circumstances were just right and something really amazing happened in your life.
Hmm.
And it's harder for us to recall when we get the intuitive hit and we don't do it because we don't trust. Because what typically happens is we go on to the next thing and the next thing, and all of a sudden we are hitting up against a glass ceiling. And typically those glass ceilings start to repeat. They start to show up over and over again. And that's when there's a clear sign that you're not tapping into the higher mind, you're not tapping into your intuition, and mainly you're not trusting yourself. So something that I see very common with clients, in fact, I was just having a conversation with a client about this, is that we think we need to have it all figured out, and that's how we deliver the highest value. Like, let me write out this content and let me teach this, and this is what I'm providing, right? Versus what tapping into, what do my clients really need right now? And again, you're tuning into the universal mind, you're receiving the information, and the breakthrough that that client can get in that moment is worth a whole year of coaching of payment. I mean, it's that powerful when you're tapping into that. So you can have all the strategy in the world and you can have all the mindset in the world. If you're not tuning into this, you're missing out on a really, really big piece that can change the trajectory of your life and your business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to quickly touch on, because we keep talking about tapping into the intuition, listening to the intuition. Um, can we get like some practical suggestions or exercises from you to help us practice tapping into our intuition, maybe tuning into it, hearing it? Do you have any suggestions for that, for people who are feeling like, I don't hear my intuition, like nothing's coming through?
Yes, of course. So something that can create a instant breakthrough for someone um, is knowing how the unique style of communication that they have with their intuition, because it's different for each person. So there's some very specific categories. One is that you get a feeling, like, our language says it, I get a gut feeling, right? So you're getting a physical feeling in your body that's telling you to do something. That is one way, right? Physical feeling in your body. A different way is which is called clairaudient, where you actually hear a message, and sometimes you're in the car and it's in the lyrics of the song that came on right at that moment, right? Or say you're at the grocery store and you're thinking about something, you've been asking this question, and well, actually, let's preface this. First of all, you need to be asking questions. What are questions that you have that you want answers to? So say that you asked a question about something and you're at the grocery store and you overhear this conversation, and the piece of information that you were looking for is right there. You just heard it from this person, right? So you're hearing the messages. And sometimes that can be that just you opened up an email and the exact message that you needed to hear is in the words of that email. And it's something that typically is repetitive, or when you see it, it's like, oh my God, this is exactly what I was looking for, right? The third one is that you get visions about something. So some people can actually see without seeing through their physical eyes, which is typically called clairvoyant, where you just get images about things. An image about something that you're supposed to create, or say that you're running retreats and you get this vision about this location, about where you're supposed to do it. So you're seeing things, and that's how how the communication is happening for you. And then the fourth one is actually the most elusive one, because it's like so obvious that we immediately put it aside. And that is, it's typically called claircognizance, and it's where you get a knowing. You don't know why you know, but you are so sure that you know that that's it. Right? And I see you nodding your head, and I'm sure the listeners are going to be like, yes, that makes a lot of sense. I don't know what I know, but I just know it. Right? So, I mean, I had a client that when because when I start working with a client right away, I tell her what is her primary way of receiving information. The next day she landed $100,000 contract because she was at a networking event and she just knew that she had to talk to this person, went right up to him, right? Starts talking to him. And I said, well, tune into him while you're talking. Don't just listen to the words that he's giving you. Same process. Tap into your intuition. What information are you getting about him? And she just said something to him, and he was blown away. And he's like, I want to talk to you more. Let's get on a call. I want to work with you. So this is how powerful this can be. And everyone has access to this, especially women. We have just a gift to use. And again, that's why it's quantum mindset, because there's no way you would know this otherwise, right? You're just tuning into also part of what I call your superhuman feminine potential, right? So I want to talk about that for a moment, because if you think about it, a rose, it just blooms and it has its beautiful scent, and it's so beautiful to look at, and it doesn't need to think to bloom into a rose. It just does what it came here to do because its DNA is fully activated. So this is what we're talking about as well. We forgot that everything that we actually need is already inside of us to become fully activated, or what I just referred to as your superhuman feminine potential, to do what you came here to do. And it all starts actually with tuning into what is my primary mode of communication. I gave you the 4. And what happens is it can become a really fun process in the beginning, but there's step 2 to actually making this work for you.
Okay.
And step 2 is what you referred to, which is most of us don't trust.
Mm-hmm.
And most of us are too busy in the doing that when we get the intuitive hit, we actually don't even realize, because in that moment we got a text message, the phone rang, something caught our attention, and all of a sudden you forgot, because as soon as it comes in, it also can go out. So something that for the listeners I think is really helpful is, at the end of the day, just take, I know you do journaling exercises. Just take out your journal and, kind of like go back through the days, like, what intuitive hits did I get today?
Mm-hmm.
And write them down. That's step number 2. But then step number 3 is actually take action on them.
Okay.
And so with the easy ones, as to, oh, well, let me go buy this, or let me go meet with this person, those are pretty easy. But they're really good because it's a way for you to start to gain trust in your intuition and see what comes out of you going to that meeting. You get this hit that you should meet this person, and something comes out of it, right? The trickier ones are when it requires financial investment.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those are the harder ones, because you might get this intuitive hit that, like, every fiber of your being is like, oh my God, I need to do this. But then your limitations and the man-made law and the subconscious kick in and say, oh my God, I can't afford this.
Mm-hmm.
So you stop yourself. And when you do that, you immediately stopped yourself from where you were being guided to go.
Right.
So before I go further, because I can give an example I think would be really helpful, but I'm going to stop for a second to see if there's anything that's coming up for you with everything that I just shared.
I love the process. I love the point that when it's something more difficult and it forces you to push up against those limits that you've come to know, that's when you start to push back. And it sort of reminds me of like listening to your intuition reminds me of the phrase "Don't ask how," which my husband and I started an e-commerce business this year called Don't Ask How, filled with just like empowering products for women who are chasing their passion. And it was our motto when we went to travel the world. We knew we wanted to travel, but we didn't know how to do it. We didn't know what to expect. I was going to run my business full time. He was leaving his full-time job to take on freelance work. And we constantly said to ourselves, don't ask how. Like, just move toward it. We just knew it was what we needed to do. And it literally changed my life. I wouldn't be sitting here as this person if I didn't do it. And so that just sort of mantra or way of thinking came to mind as you were talking about this idea of like, well, how am I going to get the money, or how can I afford this? It's like, maybe don't ask how, and trust that if it's meant for you, it will get figured out.
I love what you just shared, because I can so relate to that. I've done it so many times in my life and my business. And if you ask the how in the man-made way, you will immediately stop yourself. So say you didn't know how to do that. You didn't have the money sitting in the bank account. You didn't know how to run a business while being abroad. So immediately, if you had asked how, you would have stopped yourself in your tracks. And I'm sure that you had an incredible life-changing experience from doing that.
Mhm.
Um, so you can not ask the how, or and there's another way of doing it is that you actually set this intention to tune into the quantum universal mind to be shown the how.
Mhm.
Right, so say that it's something like that, that it's a financial investment, you don't have the money sitting in the bank account, but you feel, you know, you have to do this. So the very first step is to say yes.
Right.
Right, a mentor of mine told me, and I've shared this story, and I will probably share it until the end of my days because it changed my life in such a powerful way. I had just joined a mastermind, and 2 weeks later, I go to this event, and um, this mentor is just talking about universal law, and I was just like at the edge of my seat the whole time. It was like so exciting. Like it just felt true to me. I had never heard it before, but it just made a lot of sense to me. And so I remember just feels like I need to learn from this person. And this was many years ago when I was trying to break six figures in my business, and I was guided to go to this event, and I showed up. I went there. And I went up to the microphone and I said, he was offering a mastermind that was $30,000. And I had just joined another one 2 weeks ago. So I went up to the mic and I said, I feel I need to do this. Like, I know every part of me is saying yes, 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 but I don't have the money. And he said to me, well, there's no reason why you should have the money because you haven't said yes.
Hmm.
You need to say yes first, and then the money will show up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, what did he just say? Like it makes sense, but I've never done this before. And I was like, it's like, and this is a really key indicator when if everything is comfortable, everything that you're doing is comfortable, you are not growing.
Mhm.
And so whenever you're feeling the discomfort, it means that it's causing you to grow. And this is where the average person stops.
Right.
Right? And everything we're sharing here is how to become part of a very small percentage of the population who are change makers, visionaries, leaders, and they use discomfort. You learn how to be comfortable with discomfort, and you learn to identify that when you're uncomfortable, but at the same time you're getting a yes, that is exactly where you need to go, and the how will be revealed to you. So in that case, I felt it. It was the first time I had ever heard this concept. So yes, I was uncomfortable, but I was feeling that I need to do this. So he said, just put down the mic and go pay your deposit. So I go and I paid my deposit. A month later, I made the money to pay for that mastermind. I had never had a month like that. It just caused me to grow in such a powerful way that then I started to practice that and see, oh, this is no longer an intellectual concept.
Right.
This is the way the universe really works. This is how you grow. You say yes, and the opportunities show up. And many times they show up in a very unexpected way, not the way that you thought they were going to.
Yeah.
And that's how you really grow into who you're meant to be, and how you move beyond of the limitations of all the programming that tells you, well, if I don't have the money in the bank account, or if I don't have everything lined up, then I cannot do this, I cannot proceed, I cannot move forward.
Right. And I think the power in saying yes is opening yourself to then receive, telling the universe, yes, I'm ready for this.
Mhm.
And also almost like I imagine saying yes to yourself, like in saying yes to, I'm letting go of the limits of what I think is possible. And I believe that this is going to be possible for me, that this is possible for me. There's so much power in, just as much as there's power in the word no, and putting boundaries, there's so much power in saying yes and
Yes.
opening yourself to that opportunity.
Well, because this is the thing, a lot of us, I would say all of us actually, come with limitations of how much we can receive.
Right.
And this especially pertains to women. Um, because we like if you could have a visual, there's actually a container of how much we can receive. And for most women, the output is bigger than the input of what they are receiving. It's just part of the programming, the way we've grown up. We're still breaking through that as women. And so and a lot of it has to do with worthiness issues. A lot of it has to do with programming as to, well, we want to be taken care of, or we can't earn as much money as men. The inequality, that's still there. There's pieces that we need to break through. Some of them are ancestral pieces that need to be cleared. Like if you've done the mindset work and you're still hitting the glass ceilings, that for me is always an indicator that there's energy work that needs to be done, because there's a lot of programs of feminine self sabotage. I just did a whole workshop on that, and the things that came up, and it doesn't matter what level of success. I mean, there were 7-figure earners in there, 8-figure earners, and it's still coming up for them, because each time you're wanting to grow, something new comes up to the surface that will hold you back, that you need to break through. And so going back to this idea of this container of how much we can receive, a lot of clearing needs to happen, not just on a mindset level, but like I said, on an energetic level, so that we can expand how much we can actually receive. And what I typically see with clients is that we'll break through a piece, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, like, wow, they're like just taking off like a jet plane. And all of a sudden they will manifest something in their life to stop them, whether they get sick, or something happens in the business, something breaks down at home, something that looks like a distraction.
Right.
And it's not a distraction. You actually manifested something that's part of the programming that says you cannot receive this much. So let's bring something into your life to put the brakes on. And so it's really important that you are either working with someone or have a level of recognition that when those things start to come in, that it's your programming and the subconscious at play, and you tapped back into the man-made law of what is possible for you and how much you can actually receive, and how much you can receive at once. Because something else that I see, and this is very much related to the whole concept of quantum mindset, is that maybe the business takes off, but there has to be a sacrifice somewhere else, whether it's in your marriage, or the free time that you have, or your health. Like this concept and this limitation, very much a program of feminine self-sabotage of, I cannot have it all.
Mm-hmm. I mean, literally, we hear people saying that, or you talk about like how women can't have it all. You can't have a family and have a successful career. I mean, it's like it's built into the language and the way that we talk
It
to
is
one another.
built into the language, so much so. Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's I think that's I've seen that a lot in the people that I work with. And it's just that one more of those limiting beliefs that are just that keep us in place, that keep us in the box that we believe that we belong to, that we deserve to be in, or the place where we belong, when really, quantum mindset teaches us that actually we are limitless and we belong wherever we decide we want to go. I think that's been a huge mindset shift for me, has been knowing that I can do whatever the hell I want to do. I get to decide. It's me, no one else, and nothing else. And when I talk about travel, I remember people used to say, wow, I wish I could do that. And I was like,
You
you
can do
can.
it.
I'm not special. I don't have like a trust fund. I don't have this figured out. Like, I just decided I want to do it, and I do it. And the way I run my business, I have brought on enough people that I have a lot of downtime and I can focus on the other pursuits that I have. Like, and I had this realization recently that I just don't think people realize that they get to decide what their life looks like. Like they don't realize that there's some other option other than what that's been role modeled to them. And I feel like that's a huge piece of what we're talking about here in terms of this limited thinking.
Yeah, I know one of the chapters in the book that it's called "Create Your Own Rules."
Mm-hmm.
So when you're wanting to tap into quantum mindset, because and I also want to differentiate this because a big piece of what I do is actually tapping into the unseen world of energy because it's truly where all the magic happens. And so quantum mindset, so it's referring to the mind, right? And how much the mind can conceive, right? It's really important to understand that there's an energy to that,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you also need to tap into, well, what are the rules that I have been taught and that I keep on putting into my personal life and business that are creating the limitations? Like the example that you just gave. Anytime, and it has a lot to do with language, going back to language. Anytime you hear yourself, I wish I could do this, I hope, it's a very limiting program that's coming up that is based on certain rules that you were giving, and they are still running the show.
Mm-hmm.
Versus language, like, well, I choose, in your case, I choose to travel. And now let me be shown how I'm going to do this.
Yep.
It's a very different paradigm. And the key piece is that the energy of that, going back to energy, is that when you're living by rules, that means you're running your business by those rules. They show up everywhere. And it's very contracted energy. It's like, I can go, but I can only go so far. It's kind of like I can only go as far as the gas tank is full in my car, then it will stop. Versus if you're creating your own rules, if you hit a roadblock, that means there's another route. That means you're being shown something else. You're being shown an opportunity, a possibility to up level, to grow, to create something new, to be more aligned with your purpose. Maybe there's a piece that you need to let go in your business. I mean, I can't even tell you how many women I've worked with that have built already a 7-figure business, and they feel so unfulfilled. And then they have the golden handcuffs that we used to use as a term for corporate, but they've created that for themselves in their business. So it's even harder to get out of it. And at the same time, they're feeling this great calling to really step into their purpose work, to do what lights them up. They're like so excited about it, but they're so afraid. Well, how's the money going to come in? Well, you created your own rules of how much you could do in this business over here.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as you let go of those rules and start to create new rules about how you want to run your business, how you want to run your life, and what that might look like, it opens up, it creates expansive energy. So again, it's not just mindset, they always have to go together. That's why quantum mindset for me is also quantum energy.
Mm-hmm.
That all of a sudden you're in a space of expansion and in an energy of curiosity and wonder of being shown how. Because again, our mind is very limited. You will not know the how, or it could take you years, because we're talking about speeding up the process here.
Right.
I'm not saying you won't get there, but it could take a very long time versus changing your whole configuration, looking at the rules by which you're playing your life and running your business to tap into something completely different that can be so, so, so exciting.
And so much better than you could have thought of if you had tried to use your conscious mind to figure it out.
So much better. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel like I could talk about this all day, but I feel like you've given so much. And it just resonates with me on a deep, deep level because I feel like I didn't even know I was doing quantum mindset and quantum energy work. And it's just like what's been happening in my life over the last few years. And I can confirm that it's been incredibly powerful. before we wrap up, I'm wondering if there's maybe one piece that you want to make sure listeners walk away with today. If they take nothing else, make sure that they take this. What would that be?
Mm. So, you need to quote unquote prove to yourself that this concept works.
Mm.
So something that I like to do, and I'll give an example because I think that'll be helpful. So like we run a year-long program, and we're having our retreat this weekend. And everybody is wanting to know what's the schedule, what is the agenda, and even some of my team members like, what are all the pieces we're going to teach? I'm like, no, you know what? This retreat is actually the opposite. We're telling them what time they need to be here. That is all they need to know, because they need to practice surrender and listening to guidance and listening to intuition. So it kind of throws everybody off, and at the same time it gets them really excited because they don't know what is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so an exercise that I'd love to give people is, if you can't do a full day, at least do half a day, and then build up to a day, then build up to a weekend of doing what I just said. Whereas you get up in the morning and you're not doing what you think you should do, meaning you blocked off your schedule to just setting this intention that I am just going to tune into the quantum universal mind today, and I'm going to be shown what to do, where to go, who to meet, and then see what unfolds from that. Because then again, quote unquote, you will prove to yourself that what came into your day that day was so profound, so powerful, so exciting, so playful, so much in the flow, that then it's going to have you start to rethink the way you run your business.
I love that.
There has to be a combination, right? You're still looking at the numbers, you're still looking at strategy, but bringing this piece, and like I said, building up, and it can't just be an hour, because that's not enough time
Mm-hmm.
for you, because we're so used to the control. The surrender needs a lot more space. It needs a lot more of that flowing feminine energy, and it's kind of like, that seduction energy of like, ooh, well, okay, let me be shown what is going to happen today in that block of time that you block off, so that you make sure that you're not doing your regular appointments and things like that get you back into your head and into the limitations of what the human mind is possible of.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It's such a fun exercise.
Oh,
And
it's so much fun.
to think that sometimes like we've done that. Like think about a Saturday when you had no plans and you were just like, I feel like working out right now. I feel like having this for breakfast. Like that's also another thing to look back and say, like, you have tapped into the flow before, and you probably came back to work that next Monday feeling super rejuvenated. So I love the idea of getting intentional about that and really seeing where it takes you.
Well, we've had clients that have downloads for new streams of income by setting aside that time that they had been sitting at their desk 4 months trying to figure out, because they feel like something is coming through. And it wasn't until they do this exercise that it's like, boom, came right in.
Yep.
And then you implement, right? Then you
Yes.
go back into your head and implement.
Yeah, totally. Finding that balance is so powerful. Well, shifting gears a little bit before we end, tell us what you're getting intentional about right now.
Right now, it's really interesting. So I'm a highly sensitive person, which psychologists have come up with a term for highly sensitive. But not just in that realm. I'm highly intuitive, which is why clients come to me, because I'm able to laser into things that are not apparent on the surface. And it's something that's been coming up for me personally, that there's some days that for some reason my energy is being drained. And so what I'm being shown is that I need to be even more intentional and asking questions. almost about everything that I do and everywhere I go, which seems very extreme, to be tapped into that high frequency of where the intuition is coming from, and really walking my talk so
Hmm.
that there are no energy leaks, because I feel like I'm being shown that, because it always happens for me when something happens in my personal life or in my business, is because I'm supposed to come up with a solution because somebody else is going to come along with the same issue. So that's what I'm being intentional about, and doing it with excitement instead of the drain of, oh my goodness, I have to check everything I'm doing. No, it's more about, well, no, let me be very, very intentional about where I'm putting my time and energy and where I'm going and who I'm interacting with.
Hmm. Such important work to do. So many people need to do that more often, honestly. And where can listeners connect with you?
Um, well, the best place is actually in my private Facebook group. It's
Hmm.
called the Sacred Power Circle. That's where I love to connect with people, because we actually get to have a conversation and I get to know who's there. And we go live every Thursday. Actually, do a live sacred teaching. So anybody that feels that call to join, we would love to have you as part of this community of really high level women that are up to something really big in their life and using these tools that, this is just one of the tools that we shared today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing so much with us. This has been such an incredible conversation. I appreciate your time.
Oh, thank you, Jessica. I really appreciate it.
And thank you everyone for tuning in. And we will catch you on another episode of Mindset Reset Radio.